Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to Comme d'Archi Podcast Season 6.
Saison 6, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Hello everyone. Hello Tolila Gilliland. Thank you for being with us today. You are architect. In 2 or 3 sentences, could you introduce us to your architectural practice?
Hello. So I'm Tolila Gilliland. I'm an American architect working and living in Paris, and I'm a partner of the office Tolila Gilliland with Gaston Tolila, my business partner. And we're 20-something architects working in the 13th arrondissement of Paris on a diversity of typologies, from housing to urban projects to healthcare, with more and more specialization also in terms of adaptive reuse and transformation of existing buildings. And
You are an American in Paris.
yes, I'm an American in Paris. I'm registered both in the United States and in France. So I'm registered in New York State and then in Paris with l'Ordre des Architectes. And I came originally at the end of my studies as an undergraduate, and then have continued to work here ever since. It's been very stimulating. I felt like in France, the opportunities for research and experimentation in materiality, in ways of building is very rich, and I've enjoyed to see the transformation of the profession over the last 20 years since I first arrived. And I think it's something that we're really very positive transformations of the industry. More and more, even 10, 15 years ago, we were starting to work with wood, for example, but now these approaches in our office and across with all of our colleagues around France, looking at biosourced and geosourced materiality to try to reduce our carbon imprint, but also to work more locally, to be more and more sensitive and adapted to the context in which we're working, is really stimulating.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about your project of 76 social housing units on the community center in Bagneux, near
Yes.
Paris, for Immobilière 3F?
Yes, this project for Immobilière 3F, so this is a social housing project. It's a project in the urban development of Zach Victor Hugo in Bagneux. There's a new metro arriving in this area, and so with that comes an entire kind of redevelopment of the area with an objective for the city of creating a lot of new housing and services for a new population that will be served by this new urban transportation. And our project was selected, we were selected as a team to work through a series of workshops that started in 2017, so 7 years ago. These workshops were carried out with local residents, future residents, but also those that live on the street just across the way. Also with authorities, local mayor and other people from the city, and we, with other architects working on their individual buildings, developed the project as a neighborhood. Our project is essentially, as you mentioned, 76 housing units. The project initially kind of planned by the urbanists is two kind of perpendicular bars. Took on a strategy through these workshops where we begin to kind of break down the volumes into a series of separate volumes separated by a sort of a 4-meter void. And these voids became a whole sequence of entry from kind of an accompaniment of the sequence from the street to the front door of each housing unit. So the idea that at each level you're on a kind of an exterior shared space that could be a new commons at the scale of 2, 3, or 4 residents. And so that's important for us in housing to try to think of different scales of living together, of the partage, as we say, or sharing, and not just at the scale of the whole site, but at the smaller micro scale.
And this project is awarded?
Yes, and we were delighted just last month to receive the Equerre d'Argent, which is it's one of the French awards for the best,
famous French
famous French award for the best architectural projects. And so this was in the category of housing, which we're very honored in because there are a lot of great projects in housing. As you know, in France, housing is a majority of what we're working on. It's such an important subject, and there's a huge need for housing, but also for innovation in housing. And so this is a great opportunity for us to push some new ideas.
Mm-hmm. A word for the end?
Well, for that, just to kind of conclude on Bagneux, I hope, and it's a delight to see now the residents living in this space and seeing how they're adapting, appropriating, and living in their different spaces. It was really an objective of ours as we designed the project to try to have a sort of a Rubik's Cube of typologies and spaces and in spatial variety, so that everyone in their day-to-day would have a different experience adapted to their desires. And it's very much about this kind of specificity for each condition and for each individual and how they might live in this future site. So it's a great experience with I3F, and we look forward to transforming those lessons for a future project.
Okay. Bravo for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear listeners. Bye-bye, everyone, and see you next Wednesday for New Comme d'Archi in English. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Au revoir. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening.
And thanks to the sound engineer who was collaborating with us today.
Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.